third episode of the Strength Odyssey podcast with me, Jack Miller. So this week has been quite a busy week. I feel like there's been a lot of changes. I have turned 26 on Thursday, so I don't really feel like much of a difference between the years. It's not until a few years go by and then you realise the changes that have gone, but you don't notice day to day. So it's been a good week, and I'm excited for the next year and the rest of 2024. I have planned to make some changes with podcast setup being one. I do want to find a good setup for instead of just kind of whatever seems like the best place to do it at that current time. So that would be good. Obviously I need to find a good setup and things like that I can easily set up, because it is quite time consuming building a setup every single time I film a podcast, especially because I do it week to week, and I want to put out a podcast every single week and have it visually look good for those that watch it, and it sound good for those that listen. So that's the plan going forward with the podcast. So social media is another big thing I'll be making changes to, so I'm trying to get a constant plan. I hate social media. I've said this before and I've made it very clear. I don't like social media. If I didn't need to do it for business reasons, I wouldn't really use it, and I don't use it for personal reasons really anyway. I mean, I go on to post photos now and then and see family photos and close friends. That's about it. So if it wasn't for the business side of things, I really wouldn't use it, because I think it's a net negative in terms of how people use it and the culture surrounding social media in general. So yeah, I try and not use it that much. I don't really scroll and things on it. If I'm going on it, usually it's to post or to see specific accounts and things like that. So the final thing for kind of this week is I have got a plan for the next week's content, so I can be a bit more consistent. Jenny has been consistent with her posting, and she had a reel do quite well. 90% of the comments and kind of traction that's gained is negative. That's just social media. So, but she's been posting consistently and it's doing her well. So I need to really just post consistently and figure out what exactly I want to post about, and make sure the content's good and follow all the kind of ways to post properly and things like that, which I'm not interested in, but you have to do it to kind of stay consistent and keep putting out good stuff. So that is the focus going forward. So in today's episode, I will be talking about TikTok brain and what this is, why it happens, and kind of the downfall of people's ability to think and construct sentences, work for long periods of time, have conversations, and connect with people one-to-one due to TikTok brain, which is essentially a shortening of your ability to think. So when you have a conversation with somebody that has so-called TikTok brain, it's usually people in their early 20s or teenagers, or people younger than that, just based off the fact that they use it the most and it's been around for I don't know how many years, but it's not been around for 40, 50-year-olds to kind of get addicted to it. Whereas kids now are obviously getting brought up with this TikTok and this kind of short form content at their fingertips, and because of this they are developing problems, especially in the world of thinking, speaking, basic changes that will happen as you grow older. They're having a dent put on this progress because of the content and just the use of technology in general. Now, when I grew up, I had a mobile, maybe a basic phone that could literally just text and phone on, and that was more for a safety point of view. That was the only reason I had it. It was literally for my parents to phone me. It didn't have any credit on it, so I had to answer the phone and speak to them when they phoned me. That was the only way I could use this phone. And then I don't remember the age that I had that, maybe around 9, 10. And then as I got older, I got a phone that could kind of, I could put money onto it, and text my friends and stuff like that. But mainly, again, was just using for my mum and dad to find out where I was so I could come home on time. Now kids have iPhones and stuff like that has apps on it. And obviously, most phones now, even the cheaper phones, you can get apps. You can get Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. And I see kids that are close friends or family members, and I see the way that they think and communicate and how they organize their thoughts and their emotions, and there's a reflection of the content that they're watching and the amount of time they spend on social media, and it's kind of reflected in how they speak to people. So they are almost like they've eaten like 10 packets of sweets and just like amphetamines, like they're just wired to the moon. And sure, they might have diet issues as well, but it can just be from their phone. Like they're just sitting there scrolling. There's videos you can find online of like kids who have obviously a clear social media addiction, and they've had their phone taken off them by their parents, and they're crying, screaming. Some of them are even falling asleep, and they're doing that kind of swiping motion in their sleep. There's kids that have had their phone taken off them, and they'll sit in the corner crying, but they'll just be imagining that they're swiping up on TikTok, which is scary. I mean, the rate that they swipe up to, they're not actually ingesting any content really. Like, you can go on these apps, it's not all negative. You can go on there and learn something. There's great accounts out there that post. I mean, I've seen some accounts that post about people who have trauma or childhood trauma issues, and they put really good posts. It's not like all, changing and fancy editing and stuff. They're just actually telling you good information. There's like guys that do like dog training and stuff. So there's good things out there, but like the kids are watching this like fast, energetic, this kind of streamer content where like these guys, these American boys who are like getting paid millions of dollars to just be like idiots full time basically. And it's so attractive to kids because they're like, oh yeah, it's cool and it's fun, and he's just like, yeah, it fries their brain. It's just not good for them, I don't think. And it's clearly showing because some kids now have, I mean, there's a rise in ADHD and all this kind of things. And I do believe that there's a correlation to social media. This was an issue when I was younger, but just not to the extent that it is now, I don't believe. And obviously we had like PlayStation, Xbox and things like that. But I don't think it was as addictive. I mean, it definitely was addictive, and I played it a lot, and all my friends did, but the social media, the TikTok and Snapchat game is just a whole different level. So I think I maybe said in last week's podcast, but I've seen it firsthand with friends that are similar age as me, so early 20s. I've seen them have actual twitches for their phone. So I've been in a conversation with them, and just out of the blue they'll just pick their phone up, click on it, swipe up to see if they have no notifications, put it back down. And sometimes like it's almost like they're not even looking at the screen. It's just like like a twitch that they do. And I see that in a 20-year-old, and I think, well, what's that gonna do to a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old growing up? As a guy, if you can't sit down and focus on work, same with women, but especially for guys, obviously this podcast is aimed towards guys. If you can't sit down and focus on a task for a long period of time, how do you think that's going to affect so many areas of your life? Like, if you're addicted to viewing short form content, and you're stuck in this doom scrolling, you can't get off of it. All you're doing is looking for another bit of dopamine, and you just go and go and go until you get another hit, and then you feel lower than you did at the start. You feel worse, so you just go back in for some more, and at the end of it, you just feel like, oof, you come out and you're like, what the fuck? I've just been in this trance for like 30 minutes, 3 hours, however long you've spent, and you've learned nothing, you remember nothing, you feel tired, exhausted, you feel like you've wasted time, and all for what? To pretty much just do this and just get views on reels that you don't remember. So I think that is the majority of the kids. They are just going through and just ingesting stuff, and they don't remember it. And then when you have conversations with them, you try and ask them a question, and they're just not there, you know. Now, obviously, there is an aspect of them being a kid, but I feel like the development of kids is slowing down. So what was previously a 12 to 13-year-old's level of intelligence is now, like, they're not actually getting to that level until their late teens. So, you can imagine a 7-year-old who is almost barely still a toddler. They can walk and talk, but their punctuation when they speak, their word choice, their ability to think about something before they say it, all of this is affected by social media, I believe, short form content, and it just rots the brain. And then this TikTok brain comes out. Another kind of example of TikTok brain is they will blurt things out randomly that are kind of like memes and things like this. So they'll just they'll just say words randomly in a sentence. It won't make any sense. They'll just come out with it, or they'll make noises. And sure, there's an aspect of them being a kid, but when it's getting up to older ages, like teenagers and stuff, and they're doing this randomly, I do think this is a problem. So it's something that now adults have as well. This is why I'm making the podcast, because there are teenagers and guys in their 20s and even 30s that have this problem, the same as kids. So how do we fix this, and how do we improve our ability to think, sit down and do deep work, get outside, speak to other humans? I mean, there's probably guys that can't have a conversation with a female because they don't have any conversations anyway, but their ability just to say words that they're thinking without just breaking down and making weird TikTok noises is probably on the rise. So aside from the brain fog that TikTok brain and excessive social media use causes, it also is excessive amount of blue light. So sitting on your phone, on a screen, in the dark, inside, out of the sun, just scrolling, you're getting so much blue light in, and this really isn't good either. You really need to be outside, getting sunlight, getting sun to the skin, getting away from blue light as much as possible, reducing your blue light intake, especially around waking and sleeping. You want to minimize it. I mean, a good easy swap would be, for the first hour of the day, for the last hour of the day, is not to use screens. Read a book instead, especially before bed. You can sit and read a book, get into bed 60 minutes early and read for 30 to 60 minutes. You'll find that your mind's calmer, you're learning something through the book. Lots of things will improve from that simple habit swap. Now, if you are used to using TikTok and you're pretty much an addict, really, or Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and you're basically an addict, this is going to be a difficult swap at the start, because you've built up a habit of using it up until the moment you sleep. Banning yourself from using your phone in your bed, simple task to do. Just stop yourself from using your phone in your bed. That's one basic place to start. So for a lot of people, they wake up and their first thing is their phone's plugged into the charger right next to their bed, and they'll use their phone in their bed, which is pretty messed up if they're doing that for the first hour or two of their day, because they could get up, they could train, they could work on a skill, a habit, a work task, they could get some sunlight and have a good meal within those first 2 hours. And unfortunately, they're getting up and spending 2 hours scrolling, which sets off this addictive mindset for the day, and you'll just crave that dopamine hit all day long, and it will be so hard to get away from going back to your phone and just searching for that next hit, because your brain's already kind of plugged in for the day. So the attention deficit disorders we've talked about, the inability to think, there's obviously a rise of mental health issues. So I do think there's a correlation between mental health problems and your amount of mobile phone use. This isn't to say that if you didn't use your phone, all your mental health problems would be fixed, but it's certainly a place to start. I mean, I know friends personally who I believe their number one problem in their life is they care too much about what other people think. They're obsessed with social media. They're always on their phone. You post something, they're the first to like it. They're first to like everything on each app. And I think you've been telling me you don't have time to do X, Y, and Z, but you're always on your phone. Even when I go and see them, and I've spent time with them, I've reduced the amount of time I spend with people who are basically addicted to their phone because it's just soul destroying for me. I work on my phone a lot. When I then go and see my friends and family, the last thing I want is to spend most of the time looking at the top of their skull because they're texting or they're working or whatever when they're seeing me. And I'm like, we're only seeing each other for an hour of the day. You're going home to spend the rest of the day alone or, whatever at home. You could do all this then, like what? And it's not a nice feeling when you're seeing someone that you're supposed to be close with and they spend 90% of the time they're with you on their phone. You're trying to have a conversation with them and you're looking at this part of their head and you ask them a question and there's a few seconds delay and then they say, what was that? Or yeah, okay, or the conversation's dwindling and you reminisce about the days when you could spend hours with them, with the boys, and there was none of these distractions. So I do believe it's having a toll on mental health problems. I do believe it's having a massive toll on friendships, relationships, ability to communicate, and it's ruining, I don't want to say it's ruining the world because it's surely got benefits to social media, but brain fog is a big one for guys. If you can't sit down and work on a task for a long period of time, you're going to struggle to make progress in your life. This goes for the gym. If you can't do a 60-minute intense gym session without checking on your phone every 2 seconds. Now, sure, there's a difference between going on, checking what you're doing, putting your numbers in, that's fine, that's okay. But if you're scrolling during your session, if you're texting people, working, if you can't go for a walk outside without your phone, this is a problem. And changing some of your habits, changing a lot of your habits collectively will surely improve the problem. So if you set yourself a 10 to 15 minute walk a day without your phone, so no technology. If you set yourself, even if you do your workout program, write it in a book and then you can fill it in on your app, say like True Coach or Train Heroic after, go and fill it in after your session. So this is another hour and a half that you're not on your phone. If you have a reading to do, you can set a timer for 60 minutes on your phone, then put your phone away over the other side of the room, sit and read, your alarm will go off, that's you done an hour of reading without checking your phone. These are basic ways to do things. So when you're having your dinner, you don't have to be viewing some sort of technology. You can look outside, there's so many options, and I think all of these collectively will start to improve your level of brain fog and your inability to think, concentrate, and act on certain situations. So going forward, try and make some changes with brain fog and your ability to think by reducing the amount of time you spend scrolling on social media. That's the number one way to do it. But there's so many little habits in your day-to-day life that, they go into the toilet, for example. Some people go to the toilet for a piss and they're there for 2 hours because they've watched fucking 700 videos on the toilet and they went for a pee, because they're on their phone. So, there's little things. You don't have to be listening to music when you're walking outside. Every single time you're walking outside, you can listen to a book. You could just keep your phone off in your pocket. There's so many little changes you can do, and going forward it will help you, and it will carry over to other areas of your life, your self-esteem, self-confidence, the ability to form and have deep conversations with people you love. These will all improve due to the reduction in time on your mobile phone, specifically on short form content. So a lot of people are addicted to short form content, and this is probably the first place to start, just reducing the time use the screen time apps, that kind of thing. And if you want a free document called the Dopamine Detox document, I've made it completely for free. It's a PDF and it talks through a plan and my top tips for reducing time on your phone. Then give me a message on Instagram and I will send you the free PDF, and you can look through this, and hopefully this will be a place to start, because I've had these issues in the past and I worked on them. I read a book, I've read a few books on dopamine and things like that, but I read a book called How to Break Up With Your Phone, and that one helped a lot, and it's pointed me in the right direction now. I pretty much use my phone for 95% is for work, so I don't really go on it viewing things that I don't need to do, and I feel great from it. I don't really feel like I need to go on there. I actually feel like I prefer my time away from my devices rather than I'm escaping my life by going on these devices. That's it's the complete opposite way around now, which is amazing. So thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope that you stick around for the next one next week, and next week's podcast will be on training and strength training 2024, and how you can build muscle, strength, cardio, and athleticism all at the same time. So I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast, and I'll see you in the next one.